Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started.
We're here to help you gain that critical knowledge edge.
And today we are really getting into something that's on everyone's mind.
We are. We're doing a deep dive into the operational blueprint that separates, a really strong Part 107 pilot from someone who is genuinely trusted, a truly BVLOS-ready professional.
And if you're aiming for those high-value, scalable, uncrewed operations, this is the deep dive for you.
Absolutely.
For this, we've pulled together just a massive stack of sources. We're talking articles, regulatory proposals, even some insurance liability documents.
Like internal employer requirement lists, which are gold.
They really are. And we've synthesized all of it to understand what factors truly govern this big transition to beyond visual line of sight, or BVLOS.
And the message that comes through, it's crystal clear.
It is. BVLOS readiness is not about being a better pilot in the traditional sense. It's not about better stick skills.
No. It's about being a better, and this is the key word, a more auditable operator. And that right there is the core shift we need to unpack today. Because when you're flying visual line of sight, VLOS, your eyes are your ultimate safety net. It's simple.
It's intuitive. You see a problem, you fly away from it, you land.
Right. But in BVLOS, that easy safety crutch, it's just gone.
Completely gone. And it's replaced by something much more rigorous. It's replaced by systemic assurance.
Systemic assurance.
Yeah.
So we're talking defined procedures, measurable telemetry, dedicated crew roles.
And documentation. Documentation that can actually hold up under an audit.
So our mission today really is to give you a shortcut, a way to understand this pretty advanced operational environment.
And we're going to do that by focusing on three critical pillars that employers and regulators are demanding right now.
The first is discipline documentation, which, as we'll see, basically becomes your safety system.
Then there's what I'd call a bulletproof attitude and judgment, the human factor.
Which is huge. And finally, mastery of the system-level operational stack. And this is all framed by the FAA's anticipated Part 108 regulatory push.
That's the backdrop for all of this.
To really set the stage, we should be clear we're discussing this in the context of late 2025.
Right. So right now, you might be out there operating BVLOS, but it's under specific Part 107 waivers, maybe some authorizations.
It's very bespoke.
Very. And the entire industry, they're all intensely focused on the proposed Part 108 rule.
That's right, because Part 108, it's really the FAA's attempt to normalize all of this, to move BVLOS away from what one of our sources really brilliantly termed.
I love this phrase.
A waiver art project.
A waiver art project into an industry standard. It's perfect.
It is perfect because waiver art project suggests this, high-touch, unique safety case that's custom built for every single operation.
And that's just not scalable.
Not at all. If BVLOS is going to scale to survey national infrastructure, pipelines, rail lines, that bespoke customization has to give way to standardization. But does that mean we're sacrificing flexibility?
Well, it's an essential trade-off, isn't it? The FAA and the industry, they both realize that the level of, art required for those early waivers is just not sustainable for commercial scale.
So Part 108 is the scaffolding.
It's the scaffolding, exactly. It's defining the structure, the operations manual, the personnel roles, the safety systems, so the focus shifts. It's no longer about constantly proving your baseline safety from scratch.
It's about executing the documented, approved system you've already built.
Precisely. So to thrive in this world, you have to master the language. BVLOS, which is flying with process, not eyeballs.
The proposed Part 108, which is driving all this standardization.
Your C2 link, your command and control health, a DAA, or detect and avoid.
And CRM, crew resource management, which is just non-negotiable because BVLOS is almost always a team sport.
Always.
So before we really unpack the blueprint, we have to look at the why. Why this intense focus on documented process? It boils down to one word, really.
Liability.
Liability. A Part 107 pilot, their primary responsibility is the aircraft and keeping eyeballs on it.
But the BVLOS professional is responsible for the entire system that replaces those eyeballs. And that is a fundamentally different regulatory and insurance liability profile.
It's a whole different ballgame. Okay, let's unpack this operational blueprint. And we have to start with the foundation that proves everything else.
Yeah.
The documentation.
Yeah.
Let's kick this off with a statement that I think really separates the hobbyist mindset from the professional one.
Okay.
Documentation is not admin. It is the safety system you can prove.
And for so many Part 107 pilots, documentation is, well, it's an afterthought, isn't it?
Totally. It's a logbook entry after the fact, maybe a quick note about the airspace you were in.
Right. And in BVLOS, that mindset has to change completely. It's a massive psychological shift.
How so?
Well, when you're operating miles away, the documented procedure, the piece of paper or the digital file, it becomes the only control that a regulator or an insurer can independently verify.
It's the only proof.
It is. It's what transforms this really ambiguous claim, like, oh, we were being safe, into a legally defensible statement after something goes wrong.
So if you can't prove the control existed,
Then for all intents and purposes, the control didn't exist.
that's a powerful concept. And it's foundational to commercial aviation, right? So who specifically is demanding this level of rigor? You mentioned 4 key stakeholders.
Yeah, 4 distinct groups, and you have to satisfy all of them with your audit trail. First, and most obvious, is FAA oversight.
Of course.
Your ability to get and keep your authorizations and waivers today, it relies 100% on your documented safety case. Identifying risks, detailing mitigations, all on paper.
But that's today. Under a proposed Part 108 future, it gets deeper.
Much deeper. The FAA will be looking for systemic controls, not just records of individual flights. They want to see that when you had an incident, you didn't just file a report.
They want to see that you documented the corrective action.
And updated your operations manual. It's moving from did you file a report to did your system learn from the failure?
That's a huge distinction. Okay, so FAA is number 1. Who's second?
Second are the clients. And you have to think especially about clients who manage critical infrastructure. Pipelines, power grids, railroads.
High-stakes stuff.
The highest. They have incredibly stringent internal governance standards, often mandated by federal security regulations. They require proof for every single flight that you meet those standards.
So your documentation package isn't just for the FAA.
Not at all. It's proof for your client that you aren't introducing some unacceptable level of risk into their very sensitive operation.
Okay, FAA, clients, and the third group, which you said is arguably the most aggressive.
The insurers and legal teams?
Right.
Look, in any liability challenge after any incident, the insurer needs one thing: incontrovertible evidence of due diligence.
They don't care about your feelings about safety?
0. They need documented evidence to prove exactly what controls were in place, when they were in place, and who put them there. Documentation is the primary asset that protects the entire organization from, frankly, catastrophic financial liability.
And a gap in your paperwork.
There's a gap in your liability defense. It's that simple.
And the fourth group, the one that often gets forgotten in these technical discussions.
The public trust.
Mm.
When you're flying near communities, over private land, near critical sites, the public needs to trust the operator. And that trust, along with the perception of security and privacy, it's directly tied to the belief that you are operating within a disciplined, documented, vetted framework.
So you have to manage the perception that you're running a responsible, audited program, not
It's
just...
not a casual hobby, not some guy with a cool drone.
I really appreciate that breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to circle back to something you said, connecting documentation to the learning process. It's not just a record, it's a diagnostic tool.
It absolutely is. It creates what you call the essential learning loop. A BVLOS program just cannot scale if it keeps repeating basic operational errors or system errors.
And the logs of the data.
The logs and the debriefs are the raw data you need for trend detection. You start seeing things, recurring link quality issues at a specific location,
Or subtle GNSS dropouts.
or human factor slips, like confusion during a crew handover, or even maintenance patterns that signal a systemic weakness in a certain component,
So you turn that anomaly, that near miss, into a systemic lesson.
which then feeds back directly into updated procedures, new checklist items, maybe even more training. It's a virtuous cycle.
And for you, the listener, thinking about that next career step, this is your interview tool.
It's a massive one. Employers look at the quality of your past logs as a crucial screening tool. They're looking at your attitude.
What do clean logs signal to them?
Clean, consistent logs that clearly reference protocols and mitigations. They signal a disciplined operator, someone who respects margin and procedure.
And messy or missing records.
That signals what we call risk drift. If an employer sees you can't manage the basic discipline of the paperwork, they have zero confidence you can manage operational complexity from miles away.
Okay, so let's get tactical. Let's outline what we're calling the BVLOS proof step.
This is the chronological view. What you need to document to cover the entire life cycle of the operation.
And the framework is before flight, during flight, after flight, always.
Let's start with before flight. This is all about proving preparation and authority.
And the very first thing is proof of authority. It sounds basic, but it can get tricky.
It can get very tricky in complex airspace. You have to document specific references. For airspace authorizations, is it a real-time LENC approval? Do you have the approval code? Is it an approved Part 107.41 waiver?
Or a specific COA.
Right. And on top of that, you need your site permissions documented. Who's the landowner? Do you have written permission from site security or the local government?
Because if you don't have proof of authority,
the operation is instantly non-compliant. Full stop.
Okay, next up in the pre-flight stack.
The detailed mission plan or CONO PS summary. This is the narrative. This is what proves the operation is controlled, not just improvised on the fly.
And it needs to be specific.
Very specific. The objective. The flight boundaries, preferably with geofencing coordinates, your operational altitudes. And, this is crucial, clearly defined roles.
Because BVLOS is a team sport.
Exactly. So who is the PIC equivalent? Who is the person dedicated to monitoring the telemetry link? Who is managing the DAA system? And what is the full communication plan?
Channels, readbacks, escalation procedures.
That communication structure, documented beforehand, is the difference between a controlled abort and just pure panic when something goes wrong.
Yeah, that brings us to the safety backbone of the whole thing, the risk assessment.
And this cannot be a generic check-the-box exercise. It has to be specific to this flight, this location, this day.
So what hazards are you identifying?
All of them. People, property, potential RF interference, known air traffic patterns, the weather, the GPS environment.
And then you detail the corresponding mitigations for each one.
Right. Define geofencing, buffer zones, your lost link behavior plan, your emergency landing zones, all written down.
And you said the single most important element of this risk assessment is?
Defining your ridden go-no-go and abort criteria before you even think about launching.
Before the pressure is on.
Yes. You commit to them when you're calm, so you don't try to negotiate with them when you're under pressure. These criteria for wind, for visibility, for C2 link quality, for proximity to traffic, they must be objective. Numbers.
And finally, for pre-flight, we have the readiness checks.
This proves both the crew and the aircraft are ready to go. For the crew, that's currency and training. Part 107 status, mandatory recurrent training, and logs of any mission-specific training, like CRM refreshers or emergency drills.
And for the aircraft, it's about something that gets overlooked a lot. Configuration control.
Hugely overlooked. This means you document the aircraft ID, the current firmware version for the flight controller, and the payload, the exact payload configuration, battery health and cycle count, and the maintenance status.
Because BVLOS can't tolerate unknown configuration.
It's poison. A minor detail, like an unverified firmware update, can create a totally unpredictable failure state when you're 10 miles out. You have to know what you're flying precisely.
Okay, so that's pre-flight. Now we're in the air. During flight, the documentation shifts from preparation to active monitoring. What gets captured?
You need detailed notes on telemetry and C2 health tracking. What was the link quality? Did it degrade? If it did, when and where?
Any handoffs between crew members need to be logged too.
With a timestamp and a closed-loop confirmation, the FAA and the insurers, they want to see proof that you were actively monitoring your safety controls, not just passively hoping they worked.
And then there's the most revealing documentation of all, deviation and decision notes.
This is where you see decision quality under pressure. If you deviate from the mission plan, even slightly, you know why, who approved it, and what mitigation changed.
And you have to log abort triggers.
You absolutely must log any abort triggers that were approached or activated, and every intrusion by manned aircraft, people, or vehicles. These notes are critical because they show the crew exercised judgment and followed protocol when the safety margin was shrinking.
Okay, we've landed. Which brings us to after-flight documentation. This is the proof that you learned something.
It starts with the final flight log and outcome. And you classify any anomalies from a minor GPS jitter all the way to a major C2 link dropout. Nothing gets ignored.
Then the mandatory debrief record.
And this isn't just a casual chat, it's a structured exercise. What went well, what was risky or unclear, and what specific procedure updates or training adjustments need to be implemented next time.
Which leads to the final, critical piece that separates a mature program from a risky one.
Corrective actions and follow-ups. If an anomaly happened, it gets a ticket. It's assigned to a specific person, maintenance, training, ops manual revision, with a clear timeline for resolution.
And you have to close the loop.
You have to. This active closing of the loop, demonstrating that risk was identified and systemically mitigated, is the ultimate maturity signal that employers and auditors are looking for.
That sounds like a lot of paperwork. I can hear people groaning already.
It can be, which is why the sources all stress integrating this documentation into a simple, non-negotiable workflow.
The goal is to make it like a checklist. Automatic, not a burden.
Exactly. The burden comes when you try to retroactively remember all these details. The sources suggest a clean habit model to avoid that.
So the pre-flight packet, how long should that take?
5 to 10 minutes max. This should be a simple one-page mission card summarizing the CONU OPS, a one-page risk assessment that references your abort criteria, and then your quick configuration checks.
Standardized and simple.
Keep it lean. Then, in-flight capture needs to be tiny and frequent.
So you're not trying to write an essay while you're flying?
God, no. A short health check note at key waypoints is great. But most importantly, you immediately timestamp any deviation, any degradation, any intrusion. The goal is to minimize your cognitive load while the drone is in the air.
The best systems have tools that help with this, right?
The most robust systems do, they'll automatically capture a lot of this data. But the pilot's verification and annotation, that human element, is still essential.
And the post-flight closeout?
Should be 5 minutes. Run through the debrief questions, classify any anomalies, and assign the follow-ups. Done.
The caution here is pretty severe.
It is. If a pilot gets into the habit of thinking, oh, I'll just remember it later, employers know that later becomes creative organizational fiction. It's not reliable.
So the professional treats documentation as the primary safety mechanism.
Because it is. It protects against external pressure, it protects against the normalization of deviance, and it protects against simple, fallible human memory.
So if that paper trail is the legal offense, then our next pillar, attitude and judgment. That's the insurance policy that prevents the legal action from being necessary in the first place. Okay, we've established that documentation is the system, but, the system is run by people.
And people have good days and bad days.
Exactly. So let's move to the human factor. If a pilot has perfect stick skills but poor judgment, they are a massive liability in BVLOS. This is, I would argue, the biggest separator between a good pilot and a truly great BVLOS professional.
I'd agree. The difference is the exponential risk. In VLOS, a judgment error usually results in
What?
A mild inconvenience, a recoverable situation.
You land, you reset, you try again.
Right. But in BVLOS, where you cannot physically see the problem developing, a tiny judgment error like ignoring one checklist item, it gets amplified by distance and complexity, and it can lead to a catastrophic loss of control or a serious airspace breach.
So let's define the right attitude. You called it professional conservatism with no ego. What does that look like in practice?
It translates into several key behavioral indicators. First one is the boring is beautiful mindset.
Boring is beautiful.
The professional's goal is smooth, predictable, and utterly uneventful operations. They are completely comfortable delaying or canceling a mission without any drama.
They see a decision to stand down as a win for risk management.
Exactly. Not a failure of mission execution. They treat any deviation from the plan as a serious signal, not some annoyance to be worked around.
That is a sharp contrast with the I'm a hero mindset that you see sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. The professional operates with what I call evidence-first confidence.
What do you mean by that?
It means they trust the data. They trust the checklist, and they trust the predefined abort criteria more than their own feelings or their intuition.
So if the telemetry shows C2 link quality dipping below a preset threshold,
they initiate the planned action, the abort, immediately. They don't try to negotiate with physics. They don't hope the weather gets better. They act on the evidence.
that requires a significant amount of humble professionalism. It's about respecting the SOPs as protection, not as a list of suggestions.
That's the perfect way to put it. SOPs are the collective wisdom of the organization. They're designed to protect you on your worst day.
So a humble professional welcomes questions from their crew.
And responds with facts, not with defensiveness or ego. There is no silent nod culture in a high-stakes BVLOS cockpit or ops center. It's too dangerous.
And this feeds directly into calm, closed-loop communication, or CRM. How is CRM different in a BVLOS context versus, say, a VLOS team just flying with spotters?
It's much more structured. In VLOS, a spotter might just shout a warning, and the PIC looks up and reacts. It's fluid, it's fast, it's reactive. It is. In DVLOS, the communication has to be structured because it's essential for managing everyone's cognitive load. Critical information requires a clear readback and confirmation.
Give me an example.
Okay, so if the telemetry monitor calls out a specific C2 degradation value, link quality is at 75%, the PIC must confirm 75%, and then state the corresponding action.
And critically, the words stop and abort have to be normalized.
They have to be allowed words that signal necessary action without any fear of shame or professional repercussion. The conversation must be focused on solving the problem, not assigning blame in the moment.
Now let's talk about the destructive attitudes, what the sources call the quiet killers. The FAA model of the 5 hazardous attitudes is well known in manned aviation. Why are these so much more dangerous when you're operating a complex, remote BVLOS system?
Because the complexity of BVLOS, coupled with the external pressures that drive these missions, client deadlines, high contract value, tight operational windows, they amplify these internal flaws.
So these attitudes convince the pilot to start negotiating with their own predefined safety margins.
Right when the margin is already thin. It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's break down the BVLOS version of each, starting with number 1, anti-authority.
The underlying voice here is, don't tell me what to do.
The BVLOS version of that is what? Skipping checklist steps because I know this plane.
That's a classic. Or ignoring operational conditions that are literally written into your waiver. Yep. Or just rolling your eyes at SOPs in the ops manual. It's the belief that the rules apply to everyone else, but not to your unique level of expertise.
And the antidote?
The antidote is the mantra. Follow the rules. They are usually right, and they protect me.
Okay. Number 2, impulsivity.
The voice is, do it quickly. In BLOS, this translates to launching before the mission plan is fully verified against the flight volume, or...
This one seems common.
Very. Making a sudden mid-flight adjustment like changing altitude or path without formally rebriefing the crew or checking against known airspace conflicts.
It's acting before thinking because you feel rushed.
Exactly. The antidote has to be, not so fast. Think first. Always prioritize the closed-loop crew check.
All right. Number 3. Invulnerability.
It won't happen to me. This one is particularly dangerous because it leads directly to the normalization of deviance.
It's corrosive.
Highly corrosive. In BVLOS, this means ignoring weak signals, like a minor intermittent C2 degradation that happens every single time you fly past that one specific cell tower.
Or you rationalize away a near miss because, hey, we recovered, so it's fine.
No harm, no foul. But that attitude prevents the learning loop from ever starting. If you normalize deviance, you are quickly moving your margin of safety right into the danger zone, and you don't even realize it.
The antidote has to be.
It could happen to me. I need to assume it will happen again if I don't fix the underlying cause.
Number 4, macho.
The voice here is, I can do it. Or sometimes, watch this. The source material consistently flags the impulse to push limits to impress a client or a colleague.
In BVLOS, that means pushing the range.
Pushing range, flying in weather that is right up against your abort criteria, or extending the mission profile because you're feeling overconfident. It's taking unnecessary operational risk for the sake of reputation.
What's the antidote?
Taking chances is foolish. My job is reliability, not bravado.
And finally, resignation. Why is this one often considered the most insidious in a remote operations context?
Because it involves giving up control to external forces. The voice is, what's the use? It's out of my hands.
So this pilot just stops speaking up when they see a problem.
They do. They let the client's schedule or the weather forecast or just their own fatigue dictate the decision because they feel powerless against that external pressure. They fail to assert their PIC authority.
The antidote here is empowering.
It is. I'm not helpless. I can make a difference. I am the final safety lever.
So how do we catch these attitudes before they turn into incidents? I mean, you can't wait for an accident to realize your attitude was off.
You can't. Professionals need structured self-check systems.
Checklists.
Checklists that force an objective self-diagnosis. You're looking for signals. Your language, your body, your behavior, rather than just relying on your subjective feelings. The goal is to interrupt that negative spiral before it even begins.
Let's start with the classic human factors check. IMSAFE.
IMSAFE forces the pilot to run down the list. Illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, and emotion.
And if you're struggling with any of these,
your judgment is guaranteed to be degraded. BVLOS operations are high stakes. They demand peak cognitive performance. If you are too fatigued to fly, you must be able to cleanly call a no-go, reference the IMSAFE check, and not feel any professional guilt about it.
Then there's the broader operational check, PAE.
PAE stands for Pilot, Aircraft, Environment, and External Pressures. This checklist is just fundamental to BVLOS risk management because it formalizes all the systemic factors.
And the FAA and all the sources highlight one of those letters in particular.
They do. The single most important key to risk management is checking for external pressure, the E at the end of PAVE.
Why is that the critical variable? Why is it so important?
Because external forces, client impatience, schedule mandates, the internal pressure to meet your KPIs are the most common reason that a highly trained, competent pilot will consciously choose to ignore all the other risk factors they just checked off.
So the pressure makes the pilot vulnerable to those other hazardous attitudes.
To impulsivity, to invulnerability to the macho attitude, it's the catalyst.
So the professional has to constantly be asking,
yeah,
what pressure, internal or external, is driving this decision right now?
And what is our pre-planned no-guilt exit ramp if we need to delay or cancel?
And if you're still feeling that hesitation, that pull,
you apply the courtroom test. If this decision was replayed minute by minute in front of the FAA, a judge, and the client's insurer, would I still make it?
And if the answer is anything but a resounding yes,
your internal attitude is trying to bargain with safety, and you can't let it win.
So if that gut check flags a problem, what's the self-correction playbook? How do you interrupt that spiral?
Step 1. Pause and slow the tempo. Impulsivity thrives on speed. You need to create cognitive space.
Step 2.
Say the risk out loud. This breaks denial. It invites necessary input and scrutiny from your crew.
Step 3.
Re-anchor to the predefined plan and triggers. State clearly, we are approaching the abort trigger for C2 link quality, initiating recovery now.
Step 4 is about removing the source of the problem.
Remove the pressure lever. Call the client, shorten the mission, cancel it, whatever it takes.
And finally, step 5.
Debrief and log the lesson. Professionalism is not just about surviving pressure. It's about improving the system so that the pressure is easier to resist next time.
Okay, we've covered the safety system, which is documentation, and the temperament, which is attitude. Now let's move to practical mastery. The BVLOS-Ready skill stack.
And the sources are really clear on this. There are the table stakes that just get you in the room, and then there are the core skills that actually get you hired for the high-value systemic work.
Let's start with those table stakes.
Yeah.
The absolute minimum viable professionalism.
First is the legal baseline.
Obvious stuff.
You have to hold a Part 107 remote pilot certificate. You have to maintain your mandatory recurrent training currency within 24 calendar months. And all your credentials need to be instantly accessible.
And if you can't even maintain that simple requirement,
it demonstrates a lack of compliance hygiene that just disqualifies you immediately from any complex BVLOS work. It's a huge red flag.
Next, airspace discipline. This one gets misunderstood a lot, especially around LA&C.
It does. You have to understand that the UAS facility maps, they inform you, but they do not authorize you to operate in controlled airspace.
Authorization requires a specific FAA pathway.
LANC for real-time approvals or the drone zone for more complex applications. Confusing an informational map with actual documented permission is an instant source of enforcement risk. You have to prove you have the authority and that you understand all the conditions placed on that authority.
And for now, the reality is the waiver mindset.
Today, BVLOS relies heavily on the Part 107 waiver process, so you have to be able to create a specific detailed safety case.
Which means identifying risks, listing mitigations, demonstrating contingency plans.
And showing that entire system to the FAA. Employers are actively seeking pilots who can help them write and defend these safety cases, not just pilots who can execute them once they're approved.
Finally, for table stakes, we need remote ID compliance and reporting awareness.
Remote ID compliance has to be verified and logged for every single flight, no exceptions. And for specialized missions, maybe with foreign registered aircraft, you have to know about the notice of identification or NOI requirement.
And reporting awareness.
It just means, the official pathway for Part 107 accident reporting through the FAA's drone zone or the FSDO. And more than that, you have the integrity to report incidents immediately, even if it creates problems.
You never, ever try to handle it quietly.
Never. That's a career-ending move.
Okay, so those are the table stakes. Now for the 10 core skills. These are the pillars that demonstrate you can run reliable, repeatable systems that actually reduce organizational risk. This is what gets you hired.
Let's start with Pillar 1, risk thinking. This goes way beyond a generic checklist. This is the ability to build a fast, granular risk assessment that is specific to the mission, the equipment, and the environment.
And defining those hard abort triggers before launch?
Based on a comprehensive analysis of hazards and likelihoods, the saying is true. VLOS saves sloppy thinking. BVLOS punishes it with expensive failure.
Pillar 2, safety case writing.
Yeah.
This is the difference between knowing the risk and being able to articulate it professionally.
It is. It means you can write waiver-grade reasoning that connects all the dots. Here's the operation, here are the risks, here are our mitigations, here's our monitoring strategy, here's our contingency plan, and here's our recovery procedure.
Employers hire people who can win and maintain regulatory approvals with excellent documentation.
Absolutely. Pillar 3 is crew discipline and CRM. BVLOS scales through centralized ops centers or multi-person crews. This requires robust, closed-loop communication.
Clear task assignments and active management of workload to prevent task saturation.
You have to know when to delegate and, just as importantly, how to confirm that the delegation was successful.
Pillar 4 is telemetry and C2 health management. You have to fly the link, not the vibes.
I like that. It means treating C2 health as a measurable, monitored parameter with hard thresholds. You have to understand your aircraft's loss link actions, your return to home logic, and how those automated functions interact with your operational volume and the surrounding airspace.
Because link degradation is the single most common leading indicator of catastrophic failure in BVLOS.
It's the canary in the coal mine.
Pillar 5 is your detect and avoid, or DAA, strategy. You can't rely on your eyes anymore.
So you have to be able to clearly articulate your DAA approach. Is it procedural rules, like flying at specific altitudes to avoid manned traffic lanes? Are you using human spotters? Are you using technology like onboard ADS-B receivers?
And you must have a clear deconfliction plan for unexpected air traffic.
Including who talks to air traffic control and when, if that's required by the airspace you're in.
Pillar 6, mission planning that scales. This means planning the mission like a controlled system.
The goal is standardization. The goal is that if a different qualified staff member runs the exact same profile next week, they achieve the exact same safe outcome.
Employers are hiring you to design the system that makes 1,000 missions boring and predictable.
Not to do one mission perfectly through heroic effort that doesn't scale.
Pillar 7, documentation that holds up. This goes back to what we started with.
It means treating logs as a professional tool, ensuring the auditability of your pre-flight decisions, your anomaly recording, and crucially, the closure of your corrective actions. In a Part 108 future, the audit trail is the program's entire foundation.
Pillar 8, emergency readiness. BVLOS-Ready pilots are not surprised by surprises.
They drill the ugly moments, lost link, GNSS degradation, an unexpected battery anomaly, an unanticipated intrusion. They act as calm, coordinated incident commanders.
Knowing who calls what and who documents what action was taken.
Precisely. Pillar 9 is professional judgment under pressure. This is the non-negotiable ability to say no cleanly and follow your predefined triggers.
You have to be able to protect the safety margin without negotiating in real time with an impatient client or an aggressive schedule.
Employers hire temperament as much as they hire technical skill, sometimes more.
And finally, Pillar 10, security and compliance hygiene.
You have to understand the expectations for data handling, especially for critical infrastructure clients. This means data encryption, retention policies, physical security of your ground control station, and controlled access. Sloppiness here kills trust immediately.
So if you can reliably demonstrate those 10 pillars, you are definitely BVLOS ready.
You are. But to move from just qualified to genuinely wanted, to separate yourself into that top tier of professionals, you need to show that you not only follow the system, but you make it better.
You reduce organizational risk, and you actively help the company scale. Let's look at these separators.
Okay, separator A, operate and build the operating system.
What does that mean?
The elite BVLOS pilot is inherently a quality assurance specialist. They don't just fly the mission, they improve the system that enables the mission. They see a flaw in a checklist, and they submit a revision.
They're constantly refining the SOPs based on field experience.
They are. They're inherently aligned with that proposed Part 108 direction, which demands controlled, current manuals and revision systems. They move from being a user of the system to a steward of the system.
That's a powerful distinction. Separator B, explain risk simply to non-pilots. This is huge.
It's invaluable, the ability to brief an executive or a local landowner or regulator in plain English. It's a rare skill.
Translating technical risk, like C2 signal-to-noise ratio,
Into business risk, like this level of degradation means we lose insurability and regulatory compliance, so we must stop. A pilot who can do that can justify the necessary delay or the extra cost for safety in a language the business understands.
Separator C, treat anomalies as gold.
This requires a culture of blameless reporting. Logging near misses and minor issues without shame is how reliability is built. If you hide problems, you prevent the system from learning.
So the pilot, who documents a close call with a clear corrective action, is actually reducing future liability for the company.
100%. They see a flaw, they log it, and they own the solution. That's incredibly valuable.
And finally, Separator D, audit ready by default.
Can you instantly produce proof of currency, authorizations, logs, and corrective actions if the FAA or a high-value client asks for it tomorrow morning?
No scrambling.
No scrambling. It means having a filing system, digital or physical, that is perfectly indexed and always current. This capability saves the organization thousands of dollars and countless regulatory headaches. It proves that compliance is an ongoing state, not a last-minute panic.
All right, let's pivot to the future. The regulatory landscape is moving fast. And while Part 108 is still proposed, the direction of travel is very clear.
It is. And employers are organizing themselves around these proposed rules right now. They're not waiting.
So the industry is preparing for a world where BVLOS is standardized.
And where the FAA is shifting its regulatory focus from granting these one-off waivers to approving scalable entire operating systems.
So what is the most immediate change employers are anticipating from Part 108?
The central concept is the BVLOS operating permit. And this is a key distinction. This is not a license for an individual pilot.
It's for the entire operator organization.
Exactly. It anchors how a company runs BVLOS at scale. It is the organization's license to run BVLOS like a truly professional, regulated entity.
And that requires system compliance, controlled documentation.
And mandatory personnel training standards across the board.
And underpinning that permit is the mandatory operations manual, or company manual.
This is a major change from today's relatively loose requirements. The proposed rule requires a controlled, accessible, and constantly current manual that covers everything.
Standard flight ops, emergency procedures, maintenance protocols.
Security policies, and crucially, revision control. If an auditor shows up, the first thing they'll do is check your manual against your field procedures.
And if it isn't written,
it can't be defended, it can't be audited, and it can't be consistently trained upon. And that is completely unacceptable for scaled operations.
We're also seeing the formal introduction of specific, defined roles that move BVLOS far away from the lone pilot model.
100%. The proposed rule outlines specific organizational roles that look a lot like manned aviation management structures. For instance, the operations supervisor.
This is the mission commander.
The mission commander. This person is responsible for ensuring the operation is set up correctly, the crew is qualified, the conditions are acceptable, and all the rules and controls are being followed. They own the decision to launch.
And what about the flight coordinator?
This role becomes essential when you start to scale. The flight coordinator manages the aircraft and operational coordination, especially when you're running multiple simultaneous missions or operating out of a centralized ops center.
So they're handling things like airspace deconfliction, logistics, resource allocation.
Right. And this signals a future where the BVLOS operation relies on an organized mission coordination center, which makes situational awareness and CRM even more complex and even more critical.
Beyond the personnel, the integrity of the system itself matters just as much as the aircraft. Let's go back to configuration control. Can you give us a concrete example of why this meticulous record keeping is so vital?
Yeah, think about scaling a program with a fleet of, say, 50 aircraft. If you don't maintain rigorous configuration control, you're introducing massive systemic risk.
No, so?
Let's say an operator uses version 3.2.1 of the flight control software on Monday. It works perfectly. On Tuesday, a technician updates one of the aircraft to version 3.3.0, which has a new sensor calibration algorithm.
And nobody logs it properly.
Right. And then a critical failure happens with that aircraft. The organization's logs must be able to explicitly prove the exact configuration, the firmware version, the payload config, the geofence settings, the maintenance status that was tested, approved, and logged for that specific mission.
Without that traceability,
The failure becomes a mystery failure, and you might have to ground the entire fleet of 50 aircraft until the problem is found. Meticulous logging prevents mystery failures, and it allows for precise root cause analysis.
And security is now non-negotiable. It's moving beyond just simple physical security.
Correct. Part 108 is pushing requirements for physical security of the aircraft and the control stations, but also for rigorous cybersecurity policies to protect your networks and data streams.
So preparing for and responding to cyber attacks that might try to compromise your C2 links or your telemetry data.
And critically, there are new requirements for reporting security breaches that result in a loss of control or a data compromise. The BVLOS professional has to be the operational expert who can implement those IT policies out in the field.
The procurement environment is also changing fast, and it's influencing a pilot's value, particularly around national security.
This is a crucial late 2025 context. Due to national security concerns, the FCC has taken steps regarding covered foreign drone equipment.
So employers working for critical infrastructure, government agencies, even large private clients, they're restricting their platforms.
They are. So pilots who are versatile, who are platform agnostic, and who understand why certain equipment is restricted, and who can quickly adapt procedures, manuals, and training to different airframes are exponentially more valuable.
You're hired for your systems mastery, not just your familiarity with one specific brand of aircraft.
Exactly.
And finally, there's the increasing necessity of trust filters for sensitive work.
Right. High-value BVLOS jobs, especially those involving national infrastructure, border patrol, or sensitive data, they're going to require personnel to pass rigorous background checks.
Often including things like a TSA threat assessment.
The BVLOS pilot has to expect this and be ready to maintain these high-trust filters. They have to prove not just their skill, but their integrity and their background eligibility. You are being trusted with the safety of critical assets, and that requires high personal vetting standards.
Okay, let's bring it all together. Here is a scenario for you, the learner, that's going to require you to blend documentation, attitude, and systems thinking.
All right, let's test the blueprint.
Scenario. You are flying a long linear infrastructure survey, BVLOS. It's covering several miles of a utility easement. Everything is going normally, but your telemetry starts to show intermittent, hard GPS dropouts and some brief but noticeable command and control degradation.
Okay, not good.
And the client, the vice president of operations, is physically on site with you, and he demands, just keep going. We are severely behind schedule, and we need this data now. Can't you just manually override the system? What does the BVLOS-Ready professional do?
Okay, the professional initiates an immediate cognitive response. First is the attitude check. You have to recognize the macho attitude trying to bargain with the system.
And you identify the severe external pressure component in the PABE checklist.
You must resist that urge to negotiate with safety in real time just to please the VP. You say the risk out loud to your crew. The system is signaling instability in two critical areas, navigation and C2 link, and the external pressure is attempting to violate our abort criteria.
You name it to tame it. Then the action.
You immediately follow the pre-established abort criteria. Pillar 1. Link and navigation quality degradation are primary abort triggers. You terminate the data collection, and you initiate the recovery procedure,
which should be defined as a safe, automated return to home or an emergency landing in a pre-vetted contingency zone.
And you do this regardless of what the client is demanding.
Now for that client confrontation, what is the no-guilt exit ramp communication?
You handle the client calmly and professionally. You turn to the VP and explain, "Sir, we are delaying data collection by 20 minutes, or we are terminating the mission for the day. This is not negotiable. We follow predefined FAA auditable triggers to guarantee a safe return and to ensure your contract remains valid and insurable."
You frame it as protecting the contract.
Ignoring these triggers exposes the entire program to catastrophic liability, which is unacceptable. You protect the contract by protecting the aircraft.
And the final step, which is critical for the organization, documentation.
You document the anomaly immediately. You classify its severity, maybe a Cat C anomaly. You note the exact telemetry levels that triggered the abort, and you record the precise decision you made and why you made it. That's Pillar 7.
And you also log the external pressure that was exerted by the client.
You do. And then in the post-flight phase, you assign a corrective action. Perhaps updating the C2 health threshold criteria for that specific area, ticketing the aircraft for a diagnostic check, and logging the event into the learning loop. That's separator C.
You treat that anomaly as gold.
You do.
And that response right there, that demonstrates the integration of all three pillars. The attitude to resist the pressure, the system's knowledge to follow the trigger, and the documentation to protect the organization. That scenario is the perfect encapsulation of BVLOS professionalism. It's not about flying the plane better, it's about managing the risk environment better.
That's it in a nutshell.
So to wrap up this deep dive, let's leave you with the P-proof test mnemonic. It's a quick way to review whether your operational approach is truly BVLOS ready.
The proof test summarizes the operational blueprint we've covered today. It gives you an immediate self-assessment tool.
Okay, P stands for process. Do you rely on checklists, on structured briefs, and on hard, objective abort criteria that were defined when you were calm?
R stands for regulatory fluency. Are you current on Part 107? Do you understand the requirements and risks of waivers today? And are you actively preparing for the Part 108 direction of tomorrow?
O stands for operational documentation. Are you running your mission with a controlled manual mindset? Are you ensuring the auditability of your pre-flight configuration, your in-flight decisions, your logs, and your corrective actions?
The second O is observability. Are you actively monitoring C2 and telemetry health, treating link quality as a primary instrument, and are you logging all anomalies as the most valuable lessons you can learn?
And finally, F stands for fit for team. Do you use structured CRM, calm, closed-loop communication? And do you operate with humility and professionalism, making you safe and effective for others to work with?
These standards are your shortcut to being trusted and scalable in the BVLOS industry. And remember, in BVLOS, your attitude directly controls whether you obey your own safety triggers or if you try to negotiate safety in real time with an impatient client. The ultimate separator is not the ability to fly the drone, but the temperament to stop the mission when the system demands it.
So, if your goal is to make the operation boring, because boring means controlled and it means scalable, ask yourself this one final provocative thought. What procedures do I need to write today so that my future self, who might be tired or pressured, can't negotiate with safety tomorrow?
That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.